Hi everyone, it's Gayle. I'm back. I know it's been a while since I've done a video, and I've been so busy doing things other than videos. I've been making a lot of things to put in my vendor village. I've been making some signs, and it just would have slowed me down tremendously if I had to stop and video what I was doing, because it's not as easy as just turning on a camera. So anyway, I've decided what I'm going to do today is I've seen these on YouTube and I just fell in love with them. I'm going to make a Tree of Life wreath. So stay tuned. I'm going to change the angle of the camera and then I'll be back and we'll get started. Now to start with, I'm going to start with a Dollar Tree 14-inch wreath form, a round one. I'm going to have, I don't know how many packages of the 9.5 foot length of the nautical rope. And the reason I'm telling you that is they've got two different sizes. They have an 8-foot rope, which is a little bit thicker, and then they have the 9.5 foot rope. So I think they both weigh close to the same, but one of them is just thinner. So I'm going to put this one aside. Don't know how many I'm going to use. I'll have to let you know that when it's over. And I'm going to use some Reindeer Moss, also from the Dollar Tree. Some Dollar Tree twine. Some rocks. And these are just stones, and these are also from the Dollar Tree. But I'm not going to open these yet because I don't need them yet. And, as it is when you've been away from doing videos for a while, I forgot to turn my glue gun on, so I'm going to start this just by showing you what I would do. I would take this wreath form, turn it over on its back, on the front rather, and on this bar here, I would put some hot glue and glue this on. So let me just use a clamp, see if that'll work. Then after the hot glue dries, you would just start to wrap, and you can wrap in either direction. I like to go to my right. And what I did, because this inside ring is smaller than the outside ring, if you don't wrap this a certain way, the rope is going to get kind of wonky. That's a technical term. So what I learned in using the heart wreath is what I'm doing, I'm wrapping 3 times. You see that? I'm wrapping 3 times. And then I'm going to come up, skip this outer ring, and just come up this way. Nope, that's wrong. Sorry about that. I'm doing this upside down from what I was normally doing it. So I'm going to come around, but the 4th time, I'm not going to go all the way up to the 4th ring. I'm just going to do to the 3rd ring. Can you see that? This is a different camera angle for me, so I'm really struggling because I can't see what I'm doing. And then you just continue to wrap. And what I do is every once in a while I would put a little dab of hot glue, but I forgot to turn my hot glue gun on. So I'm just going to show you this, how I'm going to do it. There's 3. And then on my 4th one, I'm not going to go that last ring. And don't pull it so tight that you pull these rings in, because you don't want to do that. But if you notice here, let me just wrap this a couple times. If you look at this here, you're seeing that having this extra ring allows this rope to move in and yet still keeping the outside filled in. But see, and if I hadn't done this, well, actually, let me show you, since I'm not gluing this, let me show you what would happen if I did it without doing that third. I just continue to wrap. So let me just wrap, and hopefully I'll have enough here to show you. This is just a piece of rope that I had because I want to measure accurately when I get started. But this is enough. Just keep pulling it, pushing it tight this way. Just don't pull it tight this way. All right, so say that was it. If you look at it now, this here is straight, but this is at an angle. See, this is straight, and then it starts to flare out here. And so doing it the way I did it with the wrapping 3 times and then once just going over 3 of the rings and then wrap 3 times in the 3, it keeps it even. This would be straight and this would be straight. So let me turn my glue gun on, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap, because there's nothing probably any more boring than watching somebody wrap a wreath. And you've seen what I'm going to do, and I will come back when that's done. Okay, so here's my finished wreath. It's all wrapped. And I think it looks pretty good. There's a couple places where I need to just, this was a little loose. I probably should have pulled that a little tighter, but I think it looks good. Even, and you can see barely where it was the 3rd loop here. But see how it keeps it all straight. So, okay, so I am ready to get started here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my rocks and let me open the bag. Oh, I was going to tell you how many I used. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 packages of the 9.5 foot rope. That's what that's there for. 8 packages. So, all right, so I'm going to pull this out. Well, where's the opening? There it is. And you'll see that this came from Dollar Tree, and there's some really interesting rocks in here. I tried to pick one that had lots of flat-looking rocks, different color rocks, and different types of rock. Now, I think what I'm going to do, and where is it? I have a big tub. I thought I would dump these into that tub. Well, maybe not. I don't want to go looking for it. I should have had it out. But what I'm going to do is start placing these. Let me think. There was a certain place that I wanted to put this. Where I messed up a little bit in the wrapping, and I figured this would cover it up. It might be right here. No. Right here, I think, is what I was going to do. All right, so I'm going to just start placing these where I think they would look good. If there is such a thing as a rock looking good. And I'm going to try to use a mixture of big ones and little ones. and flat ones and round ones. See, like this one is really round. I don't know how that would look on here. That might be a maybe. I think that one's too big. Here's a black one. I want to kind of take the shapes and the colors and spread them out a little bit. Just till I get started, and then we can go from there. So that looks like that might be a good start. So let me get my glue gun, and I'm going to glob some hot glue on there and just stick it onto the rope. Now, if you're going to be using this outside, I suggest that you take the hot glue and some E6000 so that it would, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the interesting marks. But anyway, it would withstand the heat better in the sun if you hang it outside. If it has the E6000, I'm afraid the hot glue would just melt and rocks would fall off. I don't remember if I mentioned in my introduction whether or not I told you that I had COVID last week, which is one of the things that totally took me out of commission for a couple of days, but that's all. It was just a couple of days. Nothing near as bad as I expected it to be. So I'm just going to continue gluing these rocks. I'm trying to find the flattest side to put against the rope. Whoops. Well, I'll just leave it there. Okay, I think that's enough for the rocks. You can look at it and see, I'm the kind of person, like with a Christmas tree, I'm always adding or moving. Whoops. In this case, knocking them off. Let me put a bigger glob of glue there, because I like that rock, it's red. But you know how, have you ever gone to the beach or to the river? Excuse me. COVID cough. Go to the river and you see these beautiful rocks on the shore and you pick them up and you bring them home, and then they're so blah looking, and yet they were so beautiful on the beach. Well, that's because they were wet. So what I'm thinking, let me see, I believe I've got some Varathane right here. Left over from my polymer clay days. I'm going to take some Varathane, if this will open. I haven't opened this in years, so. Do I have a gripper? And I got this. No, that's not going to open. Let me go find some clear gloss, and I'll be right back. I found another jar of Varathane that I've used more recently. You can see, let me stir it up a little bit first. You can tell that it's, since the top came open, I don't know if this top will come off. Yeah. Varathane, this is water-based, and let me get my stir stick. Varathane was originally, and it still is, designed for a finish on hardwood floors. And it's very strong, very hard, and I used it a lot on polymer clay instead of using glazes or whatever. So what I ended up doing is back in those days, I bought a gallon, poured it into these little jelly jars, and then people in my guild bought them from me. It kind of helped pay for the price of the Varathane. But anyway, I'm going to paint these and see if it helps bring out the color of these rocks a little bit. It's almost like polishing them. You know, when you polish a rock, it looks different than before you polished it. So I'm going to see if this helps. If nothing else, it'll just add a nice shine to the rocks. And I may knock one off as I'm going along, because it seems like some of these stick really well with hot glue and others didn't seem to. So probably because they're slick, there was nothing for the hot glue to grab. Got too much on my brush. Now I'm seeing all the little hot glue strings that I tried to get off as I went along, but you always miss a few. I mean, where's my paper towel? Let's see if this doesn't help improve the looks of these rocks. Not that there's anything wrong with them. They're beautiful rocks. All different colors and textures. Another glue string. Some of these glue strings you don't even see. Or maybe it's my old eyes. Could be. Now, if you prefer a more rustic look to your tree of life, by all means, don't shine them up. As I was gluing these on, I'd look at them and say, boy, I bet this was pretty when it was wet. Just try not to oversaturate your brush. I've got a dish of rocks that I would have used, except I'm planning on selling this wreath, and I don't want to sell my rocks that I've I gathered them one year when I was at the beach on Topsail Island. And some of them have purples and some of them have pinks, and they're just beautiful rocks. And of course, when I got home, they all looked kind of blah. And I had an old rock tumbler that I had, oh goodness, can't tell you how many years ago I had that rock tumbler. And I had some grit that I had for polymer clay, of course. Everything I did for 25 years was polymer clay. And so I got the rock tumbler out and I put them in different stages because I didn't want to overcrowd it. And they came out so pretty. And I didn't do all of them, but I put the unpolished rocks on the bottom of the dish and then covered them with the polished rocks. And it sits on my coffee table in the living room. Just my dish of rocks. Lots of memories in those rocks. I'm seeing some other glue strings as this is drying. It doesn't take long for this to dry for it to be. It's not perfectly cured, that takes a day or so, but at least they'll be dry enough that it won't interfere with what we're doing. I can't tell what's glue strings and what's just strings coming off the jute. Jute is also a very rustic product. Almost done. Never done this to rocks before, but I figured if water worked, why not Varathane? Excuse me. I needed to do that. Needed to sip. Well, I'm going to go rinse my brush out. And then we'll cut some other jute. Be right back. Okay, while this is drying, just remember, use water-based Varathane. Varathane also comes in an oil base. You do not want to use that. But I think what I'm going to do now, let's see. How long is this? About 30 inches. Let's do about 30 inches. That's 24. Oh, let's make it 36 inches. Actually, I'm going to cut this in half and we'll find out how that is. This is also something my son gave me for Christmas, and I thought it was ridiculous, but it is the most wonderful pair of scissors. They are Crescent WISS. I'll link them in my notes below, in the description below, but they cut anything. And I have used this more for cutting rope, for cutting, you know how you buy those packs with something in it and you can't cut the plastic to get the thing out that you're trying to get out? This whips through it like butter. And it was funny, he gave me a bunch of different tools. And he thought it was kind of silly, but you know, they've been some of the best gifts I've ever gotten. So I'm afraid we're going to use a 9th package of Nautica rope. nautical rope. So that makes 9 packages. I'm not going to get that out for that. I'm not really careful about what size I'm cutting these as much as I am. I'm just trying to keep them somewhat uniform. And I had this much left over. And what I'm going to do is on one end, I'm going to start unraveling. This, I ended up cutting 6. And just unravel it. Doesn't have to be totally unraveled, but you know, start unraveling it. You'll have some big pieces, some little pieces. See, like that's a thick piece, these are 2 little pieces. Just let it unravel. Because what you're going to do is lay this here, and then these need to come underneath so you can glue them. So I need to unravel it down to about here, which is what, about 10 to 12 inches. And I'll do that with all of them. Sometimes you can just take them and pull this way. You have to let them hang so they unravel as you untwist it. I'm not sure how many I'm going to do. I'm going to unravel 3 or 4, and then if I need more, I'll do the other one. Let me just start with 3. You see, this started unraveling into 4 pieces, which is fine. You need big branches and little branches, because trees have all different kinds of branches. You don't ever look out at a tree and they all have the same. I think I'm going to leave that where it looks like a big branch branched off into something else. So let's try this and see how this works. And while I'm thinking about it, I saw this little string. I think that's a glue string. I've been looking at it and I just decided to go ahead and take it off. I was afraid I'd forget later. So let's start with just kind of spacing them. And this is a big one. Usually your big trunks go up the center. And I'll branch that off up here. You just want it to be natural looking. Now, is that enough or do I need another one? Best way to find out is just to put one up here and see what it looks like. You just want a natural looking tree. I think that's pretty. I don't know about you, I think that's really pretty. So I'm going to take one of these clips from Dollar Tree. They may not be big enough. They're too big. I got more clips around here, but none are the size that I want. I think what I'm going to do is take a little jute string. Don't think I need my big scissors again till later, if at all. And right here where everything starts branching off, I'm going to tie it. Actually, I might wrap it a little bit before I tie it, because I want to tie it in the back. This part of it I saw at, was it this Southern Girl Ken? She's got a channel. She's got a YouTube channel. She does some really nice things. And turn it back. I don't remember how I had it, but it doesn't really matter. What is that? That's a piece of jute that's out of whack, but that's all right. I may have made this too long, but we'll find out later. So now I'm going to take the two on the sides, find my middle, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it around and glue it on the back, and that's going to be a little hard for me to record. But I'm going to leave the camera on. I'm just going to change it to change the speed. I may try to, wonder if I can flip this over like this. Wasn't too bad. Except I lost my middle. This is my middle. I'm going to just wrap this around here just so I'll know that's where my middle is. And I'm going to take this and glue it right there. And I need to put my silicone fingers on. And I'm trying to place this where it kind of blends in with the back so that it's not obvious that there's a bunch of glued things on here. Like in this space here, I might glue it. If you're wondering about my glue gun, I absolutely love my glue gun. This is a Sure Bonder. It's cordless, as you can see, but it sits on this little, it's like a self-contained rack, and that's plugged in. That's why I can't pull it over any further. And then this just sits on there and charges, but as long as you've got this in your hand, it heats up for 2 minutes. So you can do a lot of gluing. A little scraggly end on that one. It's this one and this one. And you can just, you don't have to glue this in any particular place, just wherever you think it's going to look good. Just turn it over every once in a while to see what you're doing. See if it's okay. You know what I ought to do is mark my center with a piece of painter's tape. And me always losing my center is going to be a problem. So I'm not going to go over my rocks because I'm afraid it'll pull my rocks off. But that way I know where my center is. And they're just about dry. Matter of fact, I think they are dry. There's probably some wet spots where there was some heavy varathane put on it. So this side is glued in. So let's start over on this side, about right there. Now we've got all that done. Now I'm going to unravel the other end. And these may be too long. If they are, we can always snip them off. They are going to be too long. I only need about this much trunk. Let me take my finger off. I'm going to unravel these all the way because I'm not sure where my trunk is going to end. So you may not want to do this. You may want to just go ahead and bring your rope down and make a trunk out of it. But I've got something in mind. And I'm not sure how it's going to work until I start doing it. So y'all will just have to learn right along with me. See how they twist up on themselves if they need to be straightened out and untwisted. Got one more rope to go. And I'm just going to start up here and work my way down. Excuse me. Be glad when this cough goes away. Maybe I need to start at this end. If you're using a different kind of rope than the Dollar Tree rope, this might be easier, might be harder. I don't know how strong a twist your rope has. I've got some Walmart rope, but it's not quite as thick as this. And I didn't want to go any thicker. So I'm going to do this. And we'll go from there. Now this might look weird. But now I'm going to cut this little piece of jute that I used to hold this together. And I'm going to start not really weaving, but bringing in a few of these at a time and give it a twist. And then bring in another one, maybe from over here and from over here. Give that a twist. And build my trunk this way so that it looks like a trunk and not like just a bunch of rope. I got all messed up there. I think this is the last one. And just twist it down. Till you get to about here, to your center. And find a spot that you can glue it. I'm going to glue it right there. And I mean, I am going to glue it. Lots of glue, because I don't want this thing to move. And you can start fanning out your roots. Now, one thing that this Southern girl Ken did is she wove her roots into the rocks, which looks really nice, a little more natural than just stretching them over here and gluing them like we did at the top. So I'm going to try that. Don't know how successful I'll be. I will put a link to her channel below, because she really does a lot of nice things. And just see where I want to put my roots. And put a little trail of glue. put my little finger things back on. Which makes it hard for me to push it in. And you see I've got all this excess. I'm going to cut off all but about maybe 3 inches, and I'm going to take that around to the back. Let me put a dab. Okay, I have gotten the roots on. I can take my center marker off now. Now I'm just going to go around the back and attach these roots with a little hot glue. And then trim them off. Some of them are trimmed a little bit too long, so this way I had enough to glue. I'll glue this one here. There's our tree so far. And you can go through and some of this glue that's dried, you can pull it off. Okay, so now let's work around the top. Now this is going to be hard for me to show, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to open the reindeer moss. And some reindeer moss is loose and some comes off in strands. This looks like it comes off in strands. So what I'm going to try to do is just we'll start in the middle, I guess. And I guess I need my big glue gun for this. See if it's still heated up. I turned it back on, but that doesn't mean it's... I'm going to start with some of the... Nope, it's not. I have to wait just a minute. But if you start with these long pieces, like this, and lay them out here, then you can take some of the smaller clumpy pieces, like this, and kind of put on top of it, and it makes it look better. That's my intention. I also, let me go over here while I'm waiting for that to heat up. Have some over here. There's some more of that, but I had some other raw moss. Had some decorative moss. It had a few of these little lichen pieces in it. I might put those at the bottom. I might put some of this stuff at the bottom. There's no telling what I'll end up doing. I think I'm going to stand up for this. And let me just start I don't know why it's not gluing. Let me start with this. And I'm going to put these little long pieces on here because you want it to stick. And then take these little small pieces and kind of just press it where you put some glue. And you just squirt a lot of glue and find a spot to put your moss. See, here's a pretty fluffy piece. But having these long pieces underneath gives you some place to put those fluffy pieces. So since this one seems to be working okay, I'm going to probably should have found me a fluffy piece before I did this. And not all of it's going to stick, which is fine. You can even trim off, like that's kind of ugly right there. I think I'm going to trim that off. And just keep doing this all the way around. Let's see if I can find any more long pieces. Not really, so let's just do it this way. Just put a glob of hot glue and put your moss on there. I'll put my mini away. This one certainly ought to be hot by now. And how much you put on here is entirely up to you. I don't want a lot, but I want enough to make it look like a tree. I want to cover up all these little spaces where the may as well open both of them. and just keep adding it until you're happy with the way it looks. I want to add it all the way down to where my branches are. Which is why I went ahead and opened up both bags of moss. As long as I see glue, I can keep sticking. I think I'm going to need the long sticks on this one. It's taking a lot of glue. And don't be afraid to just let it fall off, because that's okay. Because it's only going to stick where there's glue. See, like there's a place here that didn't have any glue, so it didn't get any moss. There we go. There's one more little piece through here. This is the messy part, which kind of makes it fun too. All the glue strings that are grabbing the moss. We'll go back after I finish filling it in, and then we'll go look and fill in the bare spots. I'm just going to put a glob on there of moss and then start pulling away where it doesn't stick. You may even have to give it a haircut when you're finished. Like this isn't stuck. All these glue strings are sticking. Actually, I'm going to leave that. It's a little uneven, but I kind of like the way it digs down in there. It's the way leaves are. See, this is really green. I don't know that this is reindeer moss. It's a different lot, because I had this open for another project. But I might, because some of this is a brighter green, I might throw some brighter green. Like right across here maybe. Helps sometimes to just shake it, get some of the extra stuff off. I don't know what that is, but I don't want that in here. Didn't look like it would be a tree. Looked more like a snake it might be in the tree. And let me... That doesn't, it's out of glue. You ever wonder what reindeer moss is? I don't know what the difference is in reindeer moss and other kinds of moss. Matter of fact, I don't think I ever even heard of it until I started doing Dollar Tree crafts. Ouch. And now I'm going to sit back down. Give it a good shake. See what's loose. Get the glue off my mat. Put a little bit in here. You have to look at this from all different angles so you can see where you feel like you need to add moss. And I don't know how to... That needs to go down there. Whoops. And where are my little scissors? I want that one to come off. Yeah, and like I say, now you can go through and trim off the pieces you don't want. Give it a little haircut. Sorry you can't see what I'm doing, but if I laid it down to where you could see it, then I couldn't see, and I'd probably end up cutting off my tree trunk. Wish this didn't make such a mess. And I got all these strings. And it wouldn't hurt to put a few little pieces of this brown moss. Like down at the bottom. Let me pull it off into little pieces. This looks exactly like reindeer moss, except it's brown. So I don't know what they do to it, but whatever. Let me get another mini glue stick. Use my mini glue gun. And I might just maybe right in here. I'm gonna have to use my big one. Kind of just push it down into some of these little areas. I like that. Just kind of ball it up. To be perfectly honest, it looks like they color the reindeer moss to make it green. Of course, have to do things in threes. I think I like that. I like the moss, a little bit of moss down here at the bottom. I might trim that off just a little bit. A little haircut here, because I don't want a lot of the stragglies. And then these few little pieces of lichen, whatever you want to call it. I think I'll keep forgetting I don't have this one on. I think I'm just going to, this little piece is getting in the way. I got one more piece I might stick right here. This is flimsy stuff. It's not really a lichen. It's just there you go. I will probably go around, like I said, and give it a little bit of a haircut certain places that I don't like the looks of something sticking up or sticking out. But there it is. I don't know how I'm going to be able to get this uploaded. Now I suggest, because it's so heavy because of the rocks, that you either use a, the brown was over here, one of those like Christmas wreath hangers, the long hangers. Or I do have this rope, this wired jute from Dollar Tree. And I'm wondering if I can get this, because it's wired, through these ropes. Yes, I can. What I'm gonna do is this right here is going to be my center. Where'd my piece of tape go? I'm going to bend the end, because otherwise it's just going to catch on everything, and see if I can't get this through. It came loose. There's my I've got it through 3 ropes. I'll put it through another 3. Maybe if I twist it. Go through another 3 ropes. But this would be strong enough to hold it. It's going to take me a little while to get this threaded through, but I think this is what I'm going to use to hang this with. So I will take a picture when I'm finished. I'm really happy with the way this turned out. And hope you just make yourself, make one for yourself. It doesn't have to be as fancy as this. You can do your own thing. You can watch other YouTube videos that might show you a easier, better way of doing it. But, a tree of life is awesome. Now, we'll probably spray this with some matte spray, just so that the moss doesn't fall all over the place, because like I said, I do intend to sell this. And but anyway, when I'm finished and have the hanger and everything on it, I'll take a picture and put it on the title page and also at the end of this video. So I hope you like this. I know I enjoyed making it, even though it didn't go as smoothly as I hoped, but life happens. So thanks so much. Come back again for another tutorial real soon. Bye-bye.